Roundup. Today on the news desk, Tauria Chandni
and Fatima Abdul Qadir. This week's news headlines are: Coronavirus news. Coronavirus, France quarantine starts after race to beat deadline. Thousands of British holidaymakers have made a last-minute dash to get home before a 14-day quarantine requirement came into force for people arriving from France. The isolation measure also applies to the Netherlands, Monaco, Malta, Turks and Caicos and Aruba amid concerns about rising numbers of COVID-19 cases. Eurotunnel trains sold out and airfares were up to six times more than normal, but ferries increased capacity. France warned of reciprocal measures. The Netherlands advised against all but essential travel to UK's once the restrictions came into force on Saturday, but said it would not introduce reciprocal measures. The countries were targeted for quarantine restrictions because their infections rate exceeded 20 cases per 100,000 people over 7 days, Transport Secretary Grant Shapps said.
Coronavirus Putin memes flood social media. The announcement that Russia is forging ahead with its locally developed vaccine for COVID-19 has not only led to international concerns over its safety, but also generated a great deal of both misinformation and humor on social media platforms. We have been looking at some of the more widely shared posts. Putin the superhero. There have been many satirical memes about Russia's announcement shared in a range of languages. Some show Russian President Vladimir Putin as a superhero such as Spider-Man or Iron Man saving the world. One of the most popular being shared portrays Mr. Putin riding a bear with a giant syringe strapped to his back. A version of this meme even claims incorrectly that it was shared by Mr. Putin himself. Many satirical images have been shared representing Putin as a superhero. Another widely shared post celebrating Russia's vaccine announcement appeared on a Facebook page supporting Mr. Putin and has been shared more than 200,000 times. It's not an official account of the Russian president who is believed to shun social media, but many of the tens of thousands of people commenting in numerous languages on the post clearly believe it is.
Coronavirus, India is turning to faster tests to meet targets. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has pledged to ramp up testing to 1 million per day over the next few weeks to tackle one of the world's worst outbreaks of coronavirus. But can he achieve this, and are the tests being used reliable? How much testing is India doing now? On 11th August, India carried out more than 631,000 tests, according to data from the international comparison site Our World in Data. However, daily figures released by the Indian government are slightly higher than this, with the latest data showing there were 830,391 tests on 12th August. Prime Minister Modi's ambition is to achieve 1 million tests each day. This is a large number, but it should be put in the context of India's population of 1.3 billion. If you look at tests per 100,000 people, India currently carries out around 45 tests each day. In comparison, South Africa tests 50 people. For Pakistan, it's 9 tests a day. And for the United Kingdom, it's more than 220.
Students from Georgia School District in viral photo speak out. Students from Georgia School District in viral photo speak out. After Hannah shared a photo of a crowded hallway at North Paulding High School in Georgia, the school faced national criticism. Then after COVID-19 cases emerged among students and staff, the school was temporarily shut. Now parents are facing the tough decision of choosing between in-person or distance learning when school reopens. The BBC spoke to students and parents from the school district about the country's decision to start in-person learning when it did.
Coronavirus, Republic of Ireland COVID cases deeply concerning. The number of new coronavirus cases in the Republic of Ireland is deeply concerning. The Irish PM has said 200 new cases were reported on Saturday, and the highest number in a single day since the start of May. Michael Martin said he discussed the evolving situation with Health Minister Stephen Donnelly and Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Ronan Glynn. He said the government would monitor the situation closely.
Coronavirus serious mistakes made over Ruby Princess outbreak. The Ruby Princess heading out of Sydney Harbour on 19th March. Health authorities in Australia have been heavily criticized in an official inquiry into the Ruby Princess cruise ship coronavirus outbreak. The inquiry found serious errors by New South Wales Health on its handling of suspected cases on board. All 2,700 passengers were allowed to disembark in Sydney in March without sufficient screening. More than 100 of them felt unwell. At least 900 people later tested positive. 28 died. The ship carrying mostly Australian passengers had completed an 11-day cruise from Sydney to New Zealand and back when it docked on 19th March. The passengers, some seen coughing and spluttering, were allowed to leave the ship at Sydney Harbour, catching trains, buses and even overseas flights to get home. But the virus did not spread as extensively into the community as some had feared. Excluding a cluster in the island state of Tasmania, which spread through a hospital, 62 people in Australia caught the virus through secondary transmission. But it was Australia's worst coronavirus episode before the current lockdown in Victoria.
Moving on, US election news. US election 2020, a really simple guide. The President of the United States of America has a huge influence on how the world responds to international crises, such as wars, global pandemics, and climate change. So when the election comes around every 4 years, there are a lot of interest in the outcome, but not a lot of understanding about how the process works. Even here, we have to remind ourselves how the Electoral College works and what a battleground state is. So if you're looking for a refresher or trying to understand it for the first time, this simple guide to US election will help.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris say Trump has left US in tatters. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden and running mate Kamala Harris have attacked whining President Donald Trump as an incompetent leader who has left the US in tatters. The pair had held their first campaign event together a day after Mr. Biden unveiled Miss Harris as his number 2. President Trump hit back saying Miss Harris had dropped like a rock in her own presidential bid. Mr. Biden will face Mr. Trump, a Republican, in November's election.
Trump says universal mail-in voting would be catastrophic. Universal mail voting would make the US a laughingstock. President Donald Trump has said as he continues his vocal opposition to postal voting. It comes after the US Postal Service, USPS, warned that millions of mail-in votes may not arrive in time to be counted in November's election to vote by mail due to pandemic. Critics have blamed the new USPS head, a loyal supporter of President Donald Trump, for a slowdown in deliveries. Democrats, including former President Barack Obama, have accused Mr. Trump of attacking postal voting and the USPS in a bid to undermine the election. Singer-songwriter Taylor Swift joined critics of the president's move, accusing him of calculating dismantling of the postal service. This will lead to voting fraud and give a boost to his rival Democrat Joe Biden. However, experts say the mail-in voting system Mr. Trump uses is safe for tampering.
Biden's sweepy pick, why Kamala Harris embraces her biracial roots. U.S. Senator Kamala Harris, chosen by Joe Biden as his Democratic vice presidential candidate, is known as a prominent black politician. But she also embraced her Indian roots. My name is pronounced Kamala, like the punctuation mark. Early in life, young Kamala and her sister Maya grew up in a house filled with music by Black American artists. Her mother would sing along to Aretha Franklin's early gospel, and her jazz-loving father, who taught economics at Stanford University, would play Thelonious Monk and John Coltrane on the turntable. Her mother made sure her two daughters were aware of their background.
US 2020 Biden campaign says Trump abhorrent for fueling Harris conspiracy. The campaign team for Democratic White House candidate Joe Biden has issued a scathing response after US President Donald Trump amplified a conspiracy theory about his running mate. Mr. Trump said he had heard that Kamala Harris, a US-born citizen whose parents were immigrants, don't qualify to serve as US Vice President. The French theory has been dismissed by constitutional experts. The Biden campaign called the comments abhorrent and pathetic. They noted that Mr. Trump spent years promoting a false birther theory that ex-President Barack Obama was not born in the US. Ms. Harris, a senator from California, on Tuesday became the first Black woman and the first Asian American to be named as a running mate on a main party US presidential ticket.
Who is Kamala Harris and why she is a historic VP pick for Joe Biden? Presidential candidate Joe Biden has chosen California Senator Kamala Harris to be his running mate. Ms. Harris also ran for the Democratic nomination for the top job. If Joe Biden will be the first female, the first Black and first Asian American vice president.
Technology news: Fortnite Epic Games sues Google and Apple over App Store bans. Fortnite maker Epic Games is taking legal action against Google after being banned from the Google App Store hours after doing the same with Apple. Apple and Google both removed the hit game from their app stores. Apple and Google both removed the hit game from their app stores after Epic Games bypassed their payment system to avoid giving them a cut of sales. Both platforms take a standard 30% of purchases on their app stores. Google said it runs an open system and would work to bring Fortnite back to its official app store. On Android phones, app stores other than Google Play are available. So it is still possible to install Fortnite from the Epic Games' own launcher app and the Samsung Galaxy App Store, making it less restrictive than Apple's system.
Fortnite maker Epic Games has filed an injunction against Apple in its continuing dispute with the technology giant over its App Store policy. Apple removed Fortnite from the store after the game offered a discount on its virtual currency for purchases made outside of the app from which the Apple receives a 30% cut. Epic says the fee is unfair, and now it says Apple has threatened to remove it from its developer program on 28 August. This would leave it unable to offer any other games or apps on Apple platforms. Offering in-app purchasing only is a condition of being on both Apple's App Store and Google's Play Store, and both companies take the same percentage of sales. After circumventing the rule, Fortnite was removed from both stores last week. It has filed separate legal complaints against them. Existing Fortnite players on these platforms, iPhone or Android phone, for example, still have the game but are currently unable to get updates which are regularly released everywhere. New players cannot download it. Apple has given Epic 2 weeks to reinstate the in-app payments if it wants Fortnite to return to the stores.
What will fashion show looks like post-COVID-19? With the coronavirus pandemic leading to events being postponed or cancelled, people in the fashion world have been finding creative new ways to use technology. One such person is world-renowned visual designer Tupac Martyr, who has collaborated with artists like Alexander McQueen and Beyonce. Even before the pandemic, he and his team were collaborating with other companies to create immersive mixed reality experiences and use computer-generated models to display the clothes.
Sea at the Ritz soared by credit card scammers. Diners at the luxury Ritz Hotel in London have been targeted by extremely convincing scammers who posed as hotel staff to steal payment card details. The scammers phoned people with exact details of their restaurant bookings, asking them to confirm card details. They then tried to spend thousands of pounds at the catalog retailer Argos. The Ritz told the BBC it was investigating a potential data breach and said it had alerted the Information Commissioner's Office, ICO. How did the scam work? The fraudsters phoned people who had already made a restaurant reservation at the Ritz pretending to be hotel staff. How they got this information is still unknown. One woman who had made an online booking for afternoon tea at the Ritz as a part of a celebration received a call the day before her reservation. The scammers asked her to confirm the booking by providing her payment card details. The call was convincing because it appeared to have come from the hotel's real phone number, and the scammers knew exactly when and where her reservation was.
No fizzy drink guy gets unexpected TikTok fame. Over the past 35 years, Melbourne man Rohit Roy has battled a fizzy drink addiction. Despite many failed attempts to kick the 2-can-a-day habit, it wasn't until he started documenting his journey on TikTok that he found real motivation and support.
Google says Australian law would put search at YouTube at risk. Google has attacked a new Australian law forcing tech giants to pay local news outlets, saying it could threaten search services in the country. In an open letter, the firm warned that its YouTube and search features could be dramatically worse if new rules were brought in. It also added that users' data could be shared. But the Australian competition regulator said Google's letter was misinformation. Over the past few months, the Australian government has been preparing legislation which will make Google and Facebook pay local publishers for their content. Today, Google has said it will fight the regulation which the government says is designed to create a level playing field for news outlets.
Science news updates. Robot boat completes 3-week Atlantic mission. A UK boat has just provided an impressive demonstration on the future of robotic maritime operations. The 12-meter uncrewed surface vessel USV Max Limer has completed a 22-day-long mission to map an area of seafloor in the Atlantic. Seakit International, which developed the craft, skippered the entire outing via satellite from its base in Tollesbury in eastern England. The mission was part-funded by the European Space Agency. Robot boats promise a dramatic change in the way we work at sea. Already, many of the big survey companies that run traditional crewed vessels have started to invest heavily in the new remotely operated technologies. Freight companies are also acknowledging the cost advantages that will come from running robot ships.
Elephant shoe rediscovered in Africa after 50 years. A little-known mammal related to an elephant but as small as a mouse has been rediscovered in Africa after 50 years of obscurity. The last scientific record on the lost species of elephant shrew was in the 1970s despite local sightings. The creature was found alive and well in Djibouti, a country in the Horn of Africa, during a scientific expedition. Elephant shrews or sengis are neither elephant nor shrews but related to aardvarks, elephants and manatees. They have distinctive trunk-like noses which they use to feast on insects.
Prosopagnosia, the artist in search of her face. Carlotta has never been able to recognize faces, neither the faces of other people nor her own. Her condition, face blindness, has had a major effect on her life, but has also given her a sense of purpose as an artist, to make self-portraits of the face she cannot picture in her mind. Her apartment is filled with self-portraits, about thousands of them. She thinks each one is completely different, and they have an outwardly quality. Shapes overlap, several heads may be projected on top of each other, sometimes upside down. In one she has 3 eyes and in another she has 6.
Swans' reputation for aggression examined. A study into the reputation for aggressiveness of swans has found they are more likely to be hostile to their own kind than to other birds. The University of Exeter and Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust WWT research was carried out at sites in Gloucestershire and Dumfries and Galloway. 3 species of swan, mute, whooper and bewick's, were almost frequently aggressive to other swans. The WWT said this made ecological sense in the fight for food sources. Researchers used webcams to check on the behavior of the birds. The research was undertaken to better understand how swan behavior affects other water birds over winter. Dr. Kevin Wood from the WWT said, "We know that swans have a reputation for aggressiveness, but some of us suspected that in reality a lot of the aggression was directed towards other swans rather than smaller birds such as duck or geese." To test that idea, we recruited some great students who used the webcams at Slimbridge and Laverock to collect behavioral data on aggressive interactions between the various water birds at those sites over the past 2 winters.
Mauritius oil spill wrecked MV Wakashio breaks up. A Japanese bulk carrier that has leaked hundreds of tons of fuel oil off the Mauritius coast has broken apart, authorities in the island nation say. The MV Wakashio ran aground on a coral reef on 25th July with 4,000 tons of the fuel, causing an ecological emergency. Most of the fuel had already been pumped out, officials said, but on Saturday the ship's condition worsened. About 90 tons of the fuel were believed to be still on board when the vessel split. The committee said booms had been reinforced near the vessel to absorb any more oil that leaked out. Coast Guard vessels have been positioned in the area.
The algorithms that make big decisions about your life. Thousands of students in England are angry about the controversial use of an algorithm to determine this year's GCSE and A-level results. They were unable to sit exams because of lockdown, so the algorithm used data about school results in previous years to determine grades. In mean, about 40% of this year A-level results came out lower than predicted, which has a huge impact on what students are able to do next. GCSE results are due out on Thursday. There are many examples of algorithms making big decisions about our lives without us necessarily knowing how or when they do it. Here's a look at some of them.
Moving on, sports news. MS Dhoni, India's legend, retires after 16-year international career. India's legend and World Cup winning captain MS Dhoni says he has retired. Dhoni, 39, led India to the 2007 World 2020 title, the 2011 World Cup and the 2013 Champions Trophy. Thanks a lot for your love and support throughout. From 1,929 hours, considered me as retired, he wrote on Instagram. Dhoni, who made his India's debut in 2004, scored 10,773 one-day international runs, the 11th highest tally in history in 350 games. He also played 90 Tests and 98 T20s.
US Open, Garbiñe Muguruza, a doubt with ankle injury. Spanish world number 16, Garbiñe Muguruza, is a doubt for the US Open because of an ankle injury. 6 of the top 10 players have already pulled out of the women's draw. One person, not a player, has tested positive for coronavirus at the Western and Southern Open, which begins on Thursday at Flushing Meadows. Muguruza has withdrawn from that tournament but still hopes to compete in the US Open, which starts on 31st August at the same New York venue. The person who tested positive for COVID-19 will isolate for at least 10 days, and contact tracing has begun to determine if anyone else needs to be quarantined.
Chetan Chauhan, ex-Indian opener 73, dies after suffering with COVID-19. Former India opener Chetan Chauhan has died at the age of 73, a month after being diagnosed with COVID-19. The right-hander player played 40 tests for his country between 1969 and 1981, mostly as the opening partner of India batting legend Sunil Gavaskar. He made 2,084 test runs with the highest score of 97 against Australia in 1981. After retirement, he held various positions with the Delhi and District Cricket Association and also served as the India team manager. Chauhan also entered politics, twice being elected to Lok Sabha, India's lower house of parliament, and was a cabinet minister in his home state of Uttar Pradesh.
US Open, Serena Williams might feel less pressure without fans, Pam Shriver. Serena Williams' bid to finally land a record-equaling 24th Grand Slam title may be boosted by the lack of fans at the US Open, says former world number 3 Pam Shriver. Williams, 38, has lost her past 4 major finals when aiming to tie the record set by Margaret Court in 1973. She lost the past 2 US Open finals to Naomi Osaka and Bianca Andreescu. Without the crowds there, I wouldn't be surprised if she actually feels a little less pressure, said Shriver. Williams, ranked 9th in the world, will be amongst the favorites to win in New York when the first Grand Slam since the start of the coronavirus pandemic takes place from 31st August.
Next, world news. Spanish regions ban smoking over COVID-19 risk. The Spanish region of Galicia has effectively banned smoking in public places over concern it increases the risk of COVID-19 transmission. It issued a blanket ban on smoking in the streets and in public places such as restaurants and bars if social distancing is not possible. The northwestern region is the first to introduce such a measure, but the Canary Islands has since followed suit. It comes as Spain faces the worst infection rates in Western Europe. Daily cases have risen from the fewer than 150 in June to more than 1,500 throughout August. It recorded 1,690 new cases in the latest daily count on Wednesday, bringing the country's total to almost 3,030.
France to make face masks mandatory in most workplaces. France is to make face masks compulsory in most workplaces as it grapples with resurgence in coronavirus cases. The new rule is likely to apply to all shared spaces in offices and factories where there is more than one employee present. The measure is set to begin on 1st September. Individual offices will be exempt. France has seen a sharp rise in coronavirus cases since July, and masks are already widely used. Its average number of new cases over 7 days is now well above 2,000, double what it was at the start of the month. About 220,000 people have been now affected and more than 30,000 people have died.
Robert Trump, president's younger brother, dies in hospital. President Donald Trump has paid tribute to his best friend and youngest brother following his death at 71. It is with a heavy heart I share that my wonderful brother Robert peacefully passed away tonight, he said in a statement on Saturday. The president has visited his brother in hospital in New York the day before his death, telling reporters he is having a hard time. It is unclear what caused Robert Trump's death. A number of US media reporters suggest he had been seriously ill. He was not just my brother, he was my best friend, Donald Trump said in a statement on Saturday. His memory will live on my heart forever.
Mauritius oil spill, MV Vacatio captain arrested. The captain of the ship that spilled hundreds of tons of oil off the coast of Mauritius has been arrested. Sunil Kumar Nandeshwar, a 58-year-old Indian man, was charged with endangering safe navigation, police said. He has not yet commented. The MV Vacatio ran aground on a coral reef Pointe d'Esne on 25th July while carrying 4,000 tons of fuel oil, causing an ecological emergency. Pointe d'Esne is a sanctuary for rare wildlife.
China restaurant apologizes for weighing customers. A restaurant in central China has apologized for encouraging diners to weigh themselves and then order food accordingly. The policy was introduced after a national campaign against food waste was launched. The beef restaurant in the city of Changsha placed 2 large scales at its entrance this week. It then asked diners to enter their measurements into an app that would then suggest menu items accordingly.
Belarus unrest, protesters mark jailed activist Sergei Tikhanovskay's birthday. Protesters in Belarus have gathered outside a prison to mark the birthday of the jailed husband of the country's main opposition figure amid anger over a disputed election. Sergei Tikhanovskay, who has just turned 42, was imprisoned alongside other rivals of the President Alexander Lukashenko ahead of the 9th August poll. His wife, Svitlana Tikhanovskaya, ran in his place but later fled to Lithuania. She officially secured about 10% of the vote and Mr. Lukashenko more than 80%. There were no independent observers. The opposition has held daily protesters over the past 10 days alleging massive vote rigging. Hundreds of protesters have been wounded and 2 have died in clashes with the police. Thousands have been arrested and many have spoken of torture at the hands of security forces. This is Saria
and Fatima signing off from H&E Live.